I'm not going to give this instruction. It's way too detailed. I mean, I may give it at the end of the case, but what I have proposed, I think, is appropriate. I think it limits what the jury can pay attention to. And so that request is denied, unless you have something else. So with that, anything else?
Just, Your Honor, that I cited to counsel in Your Honor the order that permits the admission of the Dr. Phil clip and appropriately redacted.
And I looked at that. I think you're correct.
Thank you,
So with that, we'll have the jury come in whenever they're ready.
Is this the clip that has the discussion on stage, or is this the one with the airplane flying and the cop car driving?
No, this is a discussion only about the pictures on stage. And I don't know if the volume is working, Your Honor, but
if you want to practice, feel free.
you play the clip?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's,
Thank you.
just briefly.
Yeah.
Okay, you're good. Take it down for now until we get there. And before we got off on this other issue, I was going to write down something to research, and I forgot what it was already. Is somebody not coming in for Kathy Berry or something for another couple days?
Kathy Berry will be today, Your Honor.
No.
Your Honor, it was Mike Hall, you wanted to...
Right, thank you. Thank you. Okay. And are we going to go straight into this clip? Do I need to do the limiting instruction as soon as he gets on the stand?
Yes, Your Honor. I think that makes sense. This will be the first topic.
Okay.
The reorient.
All right, we can be seated. Have Mr. Redwine come back up to the stand, please. Okay, Mr. Redwine, come on back up. You are still under oath.
Morning, Mr. Redwine.
Morning.
So I want to take a second, since we left off yesterday, halfway through your testimony, just to reorient the jury a little bit. We had already covered, we were kind of walking through a timeline of history, correct?
Yes.
And we talked about how there was a fire in 2010 and then a renovation in 2011. And then we talked about that baseball trip in 2011 after the renovation of the house. You recall that?
Yes.
And that was sort of the point in time where Dylan Redwine found the pictures, correct?
Yes.
And then from there, I think you had testified that there were very few visits from Dylan to that house between then and the baseball trip of 2012.
Yes.
Then coming up to the baseball trip of 2012, that's where Dylan had asked you for the pictures and the text messages we covered.
Correct.
And then we referenced a video clip from a Dr. Phil show. Was that video clip much later in time?
No, sorry.
Let me ask a better question. So we had stopped our timeline in 2012, August 4th and 5th on the text messages, right?
Yes.
That was a point in time when Dylan was still alive.
Yes.
And then moving forward to the clip that you reviewed and signed, is this from after Dylan's disappearance?
Yes.
This was an appearance on the Dr. Phil show that you were present for.
Yes.
and you observed the defendant just talking about the pictures and referencing the pictures.
Yes.
And at this time, was Dylan still missing?
Yes.
May I approach you on it?
Yes.
Mark, this people 21, I showed it to you yesterday, and you talked about how there was a signature date on there. Is that still correct?
Yes.
Same day?
Yes.
Is that a fair and accurate what instructions Dr.
Yes, it is.
21 into evidence?
Any objection, other than what's been objected to before?
Defense incorporates previous objections. Thank you.
Thank you. It'll be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we publish?
Yes, but before you do, I need to read you another limiting instruction. The evidence you are about to see is being admitted for a limited purpose. The evidence is not being admitted to prove the defendant had a bad moral character, and the jury cannot use this evidence for that purpose. This evidence is being admitted to allow the prosecution to attempt to prove, sorry, I should have thought about this before I read it. I think that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, we'll publish the exhibit.
Go ahead.
No, they are not. So that's what you would have focused on. I'm not arguing that.
We're going to back that to the start of the clip at this time.
Suppose judicial. No, they are not. So that's what you would have focused on. I'm not arguing that it's my case. What I'm arguing is the fact that they were fabricated because it was actually, I believe that Elaine and Cory were coming into my house, rummaging through my going through my first launch when I traveled out of town. Because I have a keyless entry system on there. Cory knew how to get into that. I found all kinds of things missing. And I came up with a scheme that had to be so outrageous that they could not talk about it. And that's exactly what I got out of that. Did I ever intend to be sitting here on your show having this conversation with you or them? Absolutely not. You're saying they broke into the house and fabricated the picture? I fabricated the picture, left it available.
So, Mr. Redwine, this was 2011 on the baseball trip when Dylan found the pictures, correct?
Yes.
Were you still getting along with the defendant back then?
Yes.
And he even let you talked about staying at his house. Was some of that after you had found the pictures that you stayed at his house?
Yes.
So is there any reason back then for him to plant photos like that for you or for Dylan?
No.
And the timing of this is when people are asking the defendant questions, trying to get answers when Dylan's still in the house.
Yes.
I want to move ahead. So we talked about August 4th and 5th and those text messages in that baseball trip. Moving ahead, was there also a Labor Day trip where Dylan went to see his father?
Yes.
And then shortly after that, in September of 2012, was there a custody hearing?
Yes.
Can you just describe for the jury how the relationship between Dylan and the defendant had changed prior to that custody hearing?
Between the trip from that point to the custody hearing, there was only a few trips that they had spent together, and Mark never exercised his visitation rights to see Dylan, so that really upset Dylan. And in that time frame, Dylan's relationship with Mark had suffered because of that.
Did
Your Honor, I'm going to object. We are so far afield from the limited purpose for which this type of evidence was requested to be admitted and what sort of 404B evidence would be permissible. What we're doing here is just embarking further down the forbidden inference path. We object. This is a problem. We ask that testimony be stricken. The purpose of this, I think, is obvious, and it's to characterize Mr. Redwine as, well, I don't want to make any further record, unless it's at the bench.
You don't need to, because I'm going to deny the motion. This evidence is not being offered to show Mr. Redwine's a bad person. We talked about this before. And that he acted in conformance with bad character. That's not why it's being offered. It's being offered to show the relationship between Dylan and his father, and to help to explain, hopefully from the prosecution's point of view, what occurred.
Thank you,
and
Your
why
Honor.
it occurred.
Thank you, Your Honor. So So, Mr. Redwine, let me get back on that new topic we're talking about, okay? Setting aside, we've all heard and saw. We're setting that aside. We're talking about the custody hearing now, right?
Yes,
Where did Dylan want to live?
with my mother.
Was he clear about that?
Yes.
What did the judge grant in terms of who got custody of Dylan?
Objection, hearsay.
Your Honor, this isn't based on what someone told him. He's well aware of where his brother was living.
That question would be fine, but that's not how it was asked.
I can ask it differently, Judge. After the custody hearing ended, who got custody?
My mom.
Okay.
Same objection. The response that where the child lived.
Custody is a little bit different than where they lived. So if you want to ask it differently,
After the custody hearing, where did Dylan live?
With my mother.
After the custody hearing, was there also a Thanksgiving visit planned?
Yes.
Between the custody hearing in September 21st of 2012 and the Thanksgiving trip that was ordered by the court, was there a change in the communication between Dylan and his father that you were aware of being around the house?
Objection, foundation.
Either aware or he isn't, Your Honor.
you asked if he was aware of it. I don't think there's a foundation yet. He can explain why he was aware if that's an issue. Go ahead.
Had you talked about Dylan, let me ask this. Had you talked to Dylan about his relationship with his father at this juncture?
Yes.
Had you talked to Dylan about whether he wanted to go see his father?
Yes.
Had you talked to Dylan about whether he wanted to talk to his father?
Yes.
What was your understanding of communication based on those conversations with Dylan, the communication between Dylan and the defendant?
He did not want to communicate.
And was there discussions in your house that you heard with regard to whether he was communicating enough with the defendant?
Sorry, can you ask the question again?
Yes. Do you ever hear your mother tell him that he should call his father, for example?
Yes.
And how did Dylan respond to the requests to communicate with his father?
Dylan always said he can call me too.
So the Thanksgiving trip, I want to talk about this. Let me skip ahead to November of 2012. What was the last communication that you ever received from your brother electronically?
It was a happy birthday text that he had sent me,
What day is your birthday?
November 14th.
Do you ever get any other phone calls or emails or text messages or anything from your brother after that?
No.
Did you have a conversation with him where you saw him in person before he left?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jury, where was that conversation?
It was in his bedroom at my mother's house.
Can you explain that conversation prior to his trip to the jury, please?
Yes. We had just gotten back from a concert that for my birthday, and I had dropped my mom off, and I went and talked to my brother while I was at my mom's house, and I knew he was getting ready to leave that day, so I went and gave him a hug and just kind of talked to him about his trip, if he was going to see his friends, and just kind of seeing how he was feeling about it.
How was he feeling about it?
He was pretty anxious. He didn't really want to go, and so I kind of, joked with him a little bit about, him leaving.
How did you joke with him?
I knew he wasn't very enthused to go, so I just made the comment, don't have too much fun. And he kind of, rolled his eyes at me.
Were you teasing him basically about going?
Yes.
What about whether his bag was packed or not? Did you note something about that as you had the conversation?
I don't recall.
Was he prepared to go?
Yes.
Did you talk to him about whether he was eager to see his friend?
Yes.
Was he?
Yes.
Did you talk to him about whether he wanted to see his father or not?
Briefly, he kind of just indicated to me that he wasn't, that's the part of the trip he wasn't excited for.
And then I want to ask you a separate question. In having that interaction with him in his room, did you see any injuries on him, any lip sores or any cuts or anything like that before he left?
No.
Mr. Redwine, how did you hear that your brother was missing?
My mother called me while I was at work and said that Dylan is missing. We can't find him, and that's how she told me.
What was your reaction to that?
At first, I didn't really believe her. It kind of had to sink in for a few minutes. I thought, maybe something else is up. But then she seemed pretty adamant about it. So then, once she kind of, showed her worry, then I started to worry as well.
As time passed, did you become even more concerned?
Yes.
Did you try to communicate with him?
Yes.
How did you do that?
I sent him several text messages, and called him, countless times on the drive down.
Did he ever answer you back?
No.
And so what did you do that evening?
We got into town, and we spoke with the, marshal's office.
Let me back you up for a second. You said you were at work. Where were you at work when you heard?
I was, at my office, which is in Colorado Springs. I was just getting ready to end the day. So my mom called me about 4 o'clock, and I usually leave by 4:30. So she called me. I asked my boss if I could take the next few days off, due to my brother. So I left work and just packed an overnight bag. My mom was there waiting, for me. So I got my overnight bag, and we just left straight from my apartment down to Durango.
Okay. And you drove?
I was passenger. My stepdad, Mike, was driving.
Mike Hall?
Yes,
And who else went with you in the car?
my mother.
When you arrived, where did you go?
To the Bayfield Marshal's office.
Was the defendant at the Bayfield Marshal's office at that time?
No,
What did you do when you arrived at the Bayfield Marshal's office?
we spoke with the marshal, and he gave us just a brief, rundown of kind of what was going on, what their, plans were, and, kind of, seeing how we could, find a plan to find Dylan.
By the time that you got to Bayfield, were you concerned?
Yes,
Was that at night?
yes.
Do you remember, I don't need a time, but roughly, was that late?
Yeah, it was, anywhere between 10 and 11 pulling in.
What was that night like for you with your brother missing?
Not a good feeling. I just have no clue, and the only thing, you want to do is find him. So that's kind of what our focus was. We just wanted to come down and do anything we could to find him. So we, just stayed strong as a family, and that was our task.
Were you receiving updates, at the time that you arrived and then throughout the night?
Yes, when we spoke with the sheriff the night we arrived, they said meet with us first thing in the morning, and we'll kind of let you know what our plan is. So after we arrived, first thing in the morning we did was start going back to where we left off that night.
And where did you stay? Do you recall?
We stayed at a friend's house, Amber Harrison. We stayed at her house.
Was she also your mother's attorney in the divorce and custody case?
Yes.
And was she also, as well, a family friend?
Yes.
So she allowed you all to stay there because you were there to look for Dylan?
Yes.
Did you get a lot of sleep that night?
No.
So after you woke up that morning, did you stay local for a while in case anything was found?
Yeah, we headed to the sheriff's office and just was kind of seeing what the sheriff's office wanted us to do, what they needed from us. So we were just trying to cooperate any way we could.
Provide information to law enforcement, things like that?
Yes.
Were you interviewed?
Yes.
How about the search efforts? Were there search efforts ongoing while you were there?
Yes, they, search and rescue had a team that was searching the lake while we were down, just answering questions and just kind of going over the timeline and everything like that.
Why the lake, if you know?
That's where Dylan was last seen, so that's where we decided to start.
You mean like the area on the map that you had showed the jury?
Yes.
The lake's right up there by your father's house?
Yes.
So, in those first few weeks, what was the focus like?
The focus was, just anything that we could do to, contribute to find Dylan. So, you know, there's a lot of, you know, anything that answering questions or being on searches, whatever we could do to help, you know, find Dylan is what we were doing.
Were you able to locate anyone that had heard from Dylan after that night?
I wasn't, no.
And then, are you aware that anyone ever saw or heard from Dylan after the night of the 18th?
No.
And then, what was the defendant's involvement like early on as you were down in the Bayfield area and people were looking for Dylan?
Well, when we arrived into Bayfield, there was no communication from Mark to us. I had reached out to Mark, just kind of wanting to get a basis on what he was feeling, where he might think Dylan was at, but just the lack of involvement, you know, kind of triggered me to, you know, just kind of, you know, I was just trying to find my brother, so I was, you know, going to where he was last seen.
So were you out in some of the search efforts, for example?
Yes.
How about the defendant? Was he out on search efforts?
He was briefly out on a few. There was a few big searches that I had seen him on, but nothing, there was only like one search I saw him on, and I invited him to come search with me and got no reply, so I just assumed, you know, he was in his house.
So let's talk about that. You said there were multiple search efforts, and you said there was one search effort that you saw him out on.
Yes.
Was that early on?
Yes.
Was
it was on Florida Road. It was a community search. So there was, you know, the entire community showed up and had busters and stuff. And it was just an important day for this community, and, you know, trying to find, you know, Dylan.
Was that also, am I saying it right? Florida
Yeah,
Road?
Florida Road.
Is Florida Road also by Lemon Reservoir? Is that the same search?
Yeah, it's headed up to Lemon and Vallecito, so it's an alternative route to get up to both of the lakes.
Okay. Is it anywhere near Middle Mountain Road at all?
No.
Entirely, is it down away from the Vallecito Reservoir?
Yes, it's more on your way into town, and it's a lot of housing and stuff like that. It's, you know, just a commute road up to the lakes.
Do you ever see him in any kind of searches near Middle Mountain Road participating?
No.
And then you talked about how you were participating but not getting a lot of communication from him, things like that. Did you start to get frustrated?
Yes.
Why?
Because I want to find Dylan, and I believe that should be his motive too. So when the lack of his efforts, you know, were being clearly demonstrated, it really angered me.
I want to move ahead to June of 2013. So during the winter months, we had showed the map previously of Middle Mountain Road. Is it difficult to get up there in the winter?
Yes.
They close that road down.
Yes.
How's the snow up there and things like that?
It snows quite a bit up there, and it stays up there for a while just because of the terrain up there.
And speaking to investigators, was there a plan to search Middle Mountain Road more thoroughly when they were able to?
Yeah, when the weather...
I didn't hear.
Objection hearsay.
Okay, just a second. Response?
Yes, Judge, it goes to the effect on the listener and what he's going to do and where he's going to be. Whether they do a search or not is going to be apparent through the evidence.
I think that the question can get at that without saying what were people telling you.
I think I can get there anyway. As long as it's for that limited purpose, then it's not hearsay.
So, Mr. Redwine, were you informed that there were going to be some searches up on Middle Mountain Road?
Yes.
And you were living in Colorado Springs still at that time?
Yes.
So, in being informed about searches on Middle Mountain Road, was this something that you were interested in the results of?
Yes.
How come?
Because it's one step closer to finding my little brother.
Was it something that, in your perception, was important because it had yet to be done?
Yes.
So when the Middle Mountain searches were scheduled, when were they scheduled for, roughly speaking?
In the middle of summer, June, just in the nicer weather months.
Does June 22nd through June 25th sound right to you?
Yes, it does.
When those were scheduled, what did you do?
I came down, found housing arrangements, and just offered any assistance I could to the search efforts.
How far is it for you from Colorado Springs to where you stayed for the Middle Mountain searches?
It's about a 6-hour drive.
And did you have to take off work as well?
Yes, I actually ended up quitting my job for that.
Did the rest of your family come?
My stepdad did and my mother did, yes.
Did the defendant come for those searches?
No,
Was he in town at all?
not when we started the search, no.
And was he still living in Bayecito itself?
Yes,
So he was living roughly 8 miles away from where the search was going to occur, and he wasn't in town.
yes,
Did that upset you?
yes.
How did you learn that your brother, Dylan Redwine, was deceased?
A few of the investigators said that they had found some bones, and then once they got the bones back and they were able to identify them as Dylan's, that's how I found out.
Were there also items of Dylan's that were located?
Yes.
Did they ever locate his backpack out there?
No.
Did they ever locate his cell phone out there?
No.
Did they locate a couple of other items that you had to review?
Yes.
Why did you have to look at them?
Because I know them. I spent a lot of time with Dylan and helped him a lot, and the stuff he enjoyed and clothes he bought and stuff like that.
Was the defendant anywhere around to look at any of Dylan's items?
No.
Judge, at this time, I'm going to ask you to approach with People's Exhibits 311, 314, 316, and 321. All right, you may. I'm going to hand you with the Mark People's Exhibit 311. You recognize People's Exhibit 311?
Yes.
What is People's Exhibit 311?
It is Dylan's shoe, because I helped him pick them out and seen him wear them multiple times. Yes.
Mr. Moran?
No objection, thank you.
Submitted.
Yes. It is Dylan's sock. I've seen him wear it multiple times, and I have one of the other pairs still in my house. Yes.
No objection, thank you.
Submitted.
Regarding People's Exhibit 314, what kind of condition is the dock in?
It's in pretty, it's obviously been worn quite a bit, and kind of stretched out, but, still in decent condition, I guess, for how old it is. No.
Objection, Your Honor. The item speaks for itself. There's a lacking foundation for this witness to opine as to wild animal behavior.
You can tell them shoe marks, I think I agree with.
No.
Mr. Redwine, I'm going to show you some marks of people exhibit for condition 16. And the same people exhibit 360.
Yes. It's, a waistband, to some underwear. Yes. Dylan's. Yes.
Mr. Moran,
No objection, thank you.
submitted.
Yes. A set of headphones. They were Dylan's, but they were mine previously. I gave them to him. Yes. Yes.
Mr. Moran,
No objection, thank you.
submitted. The bailiff, but you need to continue asking questions. Okay. And the way this will work, ladies and gentlemen, these can just be passed around to you, just, when you're done, get them back to Cindy.
Your Honor, my next questions pertain to exhibits that the jury is going to view. If I could just give them a moment, would that be all right with the court? I know you said keep asking questions, but I don't want to move on to a new exhibit that I'm going to put up.
Not if they're gonna view it. That's fine.
And actually, Your Honor, I do have a couple questions I can ask
Okay.
while they're passing.
I've been requested to make sure you stay next to the microphone. All right? Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Redwine, I'm going to show you what's been previously admitted as People's Exhibit 2.
Okay.
And you know what? Let's just wait. There's too many exhibits. Okay. Okay, it looks like the jury's done looking at the exhibits, but before we start back up with testimony, I gave the jury a limiting instruction about the purpose for which evidence could be used, but I didn't tell you what the purpose was. So in terms of the Dr. Phil interview, where there was a discussion about how those photographs came into existence, those photographs were being offered to show the state of mind of the defendant regarding the existence of the photographs. That's the purpose for which it's used. It was introduced. That's the purpose for which you can use it, and that's the only purpose.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Mr. Redwine, and I had asked you if there were any
holes in the sock, do you recall that?
Yes.
The shoe itself, does the shoe look different than the sock?
Yes.
The shoe has some holes in it,
Yes.
but the sock does not.
No.
Now, I want to bring your attention to what's been previously marked and admitted as People's Exhibit 2 will come up on the screen. Now, I showed you an underwear band that you had identified as your brother's. Can you show the jury in this picture if you can see the underwear band that you had identified from Middle Mountain?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Your Honor, at this time I would move, I would ask to approach with People's Exhibit 14 and People's Exhibit 294 that have been previously provided to defense counsel, I believe.
All right.
Mr. Redwine, do you have People's Exhibit 14 in front of you?
Yes.
Is that a photograph of your brother?
Yes.
Do you recognize the T-shirt he's wearing in that photograph as from around the time of the disappearance?
Yes.
When and where did he get that T-shirt?
He got it on his road trip with Mark in 2012.
This is the one that we were referring to as the August baseball trip?
Yes.
And is that a fair and accurate depiction of that T-shirt itself?
Yes.
And then is that Dylan also close in time to the disappearance?
Yes.
Move to admit People's Exhibit 14 into evidence.
Mr. Moran?
I'm going to need to look at it. I've misplaced that copy.
Okay, reapproach, Your Honor.
You may.
At this time, I would move to admit People's Exhibit 14 into evidence.
Mr. Moran?
No objection. Thank you.
It's admitted.
May I publish to the jury, Your Honor?
You may.
So, Mr. Redwine, is that the shirt you were referring to from the baseball trip?
Yes, it is.
And so this would have been Dylan within a couple of months, sometime between early August and then November 18th when this photograph was taken.
Yes.
Thank you. I also put in front of you People's Exhibit 294. Do you recognize the T-shirt in that exhibit?
Yes.
And what's depicted there?
It's the same shirt he's wearing in that photograph, with just little shreds of where it says White Sox.
Is it from the Middle Mountain in June of 2013?
Yes.
And were you asked to identify it as your brother's T-shirt?
Yes, I was.
Is it all shredded up at the point in which it's located on Middle Mountain?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I would move to admit People's Exhibit 294 into evidence.
Mr. Moran?
No objection. I am not finding that in what's been provided to us. I'm familiar with the photograph, but just would request that be provided to the
You mean in what they're doing today?
Yes.
Not provided
Yes.
in terms of...
I beg your pardon, right. I'm not making a Rule 16 record
Okay,
yet.
that was my question. I want to make that clear. All right, 294 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes. May we publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Is this that same T-shirt that you were referring to?
Yes.
In these size of scraps of the T-shirt, was law enforcement, were you viewing scraps very small that day as they recovered some of Dylan's remains and belongings?
Yes.
I had asked you about if they found a backpack or a cell phone, but did they ever find a ball cap?
No.
Objection,
Not
Your
that.
Honor. Lacking foundation, and this would be hearsay.
How can he testify to that?
Ask a different question, Your Honor.
Okay.
In the course of this entire investigation, were you ever shown a ball cap that was consistent with the one that Dylan had brought on the trip?
No.
In the entire course of this investigation, were you ever shown a wallet that ended up being Dylan's?
Your Honor, this is getting a little leading. Objection.
No, this isn't leading. He's got to explain what the question is, so it's okay.
No.
In the entire course of the investigation, you were one of the people who items were brought to over and over saying, is this Dylan's or not?
Yes.
And when did that start, that process?
When we started the searches, anything that was discovered, whether it was Dylan's or not, was brought to me for me to identify.
So each time from November 19th on, an item was found, you had to look at it and think, is this my brother's or not?
Yes.
And did that continue on even after the Middle Mountain search?
Yes.
Were you ever shown over the course of all that time a debit card belonging to your brother?
No.
After after Dylan's remains were found, did you remain in the Bayfield area?
Yes.
What did you do while you were there?
I just assisted anyway with the investigation or went on just hikes myself. Anything I could do to clear my mind and stay productive in finding Dylan.
After the search was over, was there a vigil?
Yes.
What was that like?
It was very sad. You know, Dylan's friends and all of us had hoped for a different way of finding him. So it was very hard day for us.
Was that vigil after his remains were found?
Yes.
Was that vigil for a missing child or for a child that was found dead?
A child that was found dead.
Did the defendant eventually come back to town after the search was over?
Yes.
Did he attend that
To
vigil?
object to that characterization, eventually, prosecutor is testifying now.
Happy to rephrase, Your Honor.
I think it's okay, and that kind of objection just highlights it if you're trying not to show it to the jury. So you do what you want, but go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Your Honor. After the search was over and your brother's remains were found and you've gone through all these items, did your father, the defendant, did he then come back to town?
Yes.
Was he present at the vigil?
No.
Are you sure he didn't go to the vigil?
We had the vigil and then we had
Objection, Your Honor, that is improper impeachment if that's what the prosecutor is trying to do.
So,
Why is this impeachment?
If you ask the question, got an answer, and re-asked, I guess, to ask and answered, if Mr. Johnson believes that there's a different answer that should be provided, there's other means of demonstrating that evidence.
Mr. Johnson?
I'll just ask a different question, Your Honor.
All right.
Did your father ever go to a vigil around the time that Dylan's remains were found?
Yes.
And your father go to a vigil that was for, let me be clear, the vigil that your father went to, when was it?
It was after we had found Dylan's remains, and it was just a candlelight vigil we had at Eagle Park.
What was he doing there?
I'm not really sure what his motives were. He kind of stayed in the background.
Objection, Your Honor, if this is a question about motive, that's not anything this witness can answer. This witness could answer.
I'm looking at the question, just a second. Mr. Johnson?
Judge, I have a different question. I think the response about motive I'm not asking about motive.
All right. This witness can't testify about the motives, at least on this question, as to Mr. Redwine. So if there was an answer there, please respond.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Redwine, was the defendant handing something out to people?
Yes.
What was he handing out?
Cards.
Objection, foundation.
Did you, go ahead, lay the foundation.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you see the defendant handing something out?
Yes.
Thank you. What did you see him handing out?
It appeared to be like a little business card.
What was on the business card?
It was some, I didn't really look at him too much, but it had something to do with Dylan. I'm not quite sure on what it was, though.
Do you know if it was about Dylan being deceased or about Dylan missing?
Objection, leading.
Not a leading question, Your Honor.
I don't think that's a leading question.
Based on the prior response, it's suggesting the answer, objection.
Okay, I'm going to allow it.
Was he handing out business cards that talked about Dylan being deceased or about Dylan being missing?
Yes, about being deceased. Or missing. Sorry, I can't recall 100% on what it is.
Okay, fair enough. Was there anything about what he was handing out that upset you?
Yes.
What upset you?
That
Objection, relevance.
Why is it this relevant?
Because he's describing the defendant's behavior at the time of the vigil.
Describing his response. Not the defendant, not Mr. Redwine's, not Mr. Mark Redwine's behavior.
The thing, and you're going to go into what upset Mr. Redwine? Is that the plan?
Your Honor, yes, I'm going to ask what he was doing, yes.
I think that's allowed. Whether or not this Mr. Redwine is upset really doesn't matter to the jury and should not be considered by the jury for any purpose. Go ahead.
What was he doing that was upsetting you?
he was handing out cards that just had no relevance for my brother.
Let me ask you about Dylan Redwine's fishing pole. You familiar with Dylan Redwine's fishing pole?
Yes.
You know what it looks like?
Yes.
Were you asked early on in the case to look for Dylan's fishing pole?
Yes.
Why?
It was said that it had been missing, that it was possibly down by the lake, that Dylan might have went fishing. So that was just one of the things we started looking for.
Did you see the investigation and the searches go towards bodies of water?
Yes.
Are the bodies of water up in that area in the same direction as Middle Mountain or the opposite direction as Middle Mountain?
They start towards the same direction if you go by the road, but Middle Mountain Road is still quite a bit away from the lake, so.
Let me republish, if Your Honor will allow.
Yes.
Just so that we can be specific with the jury, I'm going to approach with a pointer.
Yes.
Mr. Redwine, if you could just indicate to the jury where the searches at the lake were occurring, and then up on Middle Mountain where,
And please use the microphone up there, please. Yeah, it turned itself off. There's a mute button. Push that. Or hand it to Erin. She's much better with it than me.
Your Honor, permission to get a closer look. Permission to get a closer look, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
The searches that we did for the lake, we did by the inlet over in this area, and this is the start of Middle Mountain Road. So it's in the same direction. We did searches over at the inlet right here, and then over by the dam along upside over here. And where we did the searches in June is right up in this area right here.
And for scale, is that a couple miles at least up that Middle Mountain Road?
Yes.
And then those areas you indicated on the lake, are those areas that at times Dylan had perhaps fished before?
Yes.
Had he ever walked alone with his fishing pole to any of those areas to fish?
No.
Was it because of the fishing pole that you were wondering about the lake yourself?
Yes.
I'm going to move to 23, please. It's been previously admitted as well. Does this show a little better the distance if you were to drive from or walk from Mr. Redwine's residence towards the reservoir and then all the way up 8.6 miles to the location where the remains were?
Yes.
Can you just show a little bit about where the searches were for the jury on this closer up map?
Yeah, so the searches up in June were up in this section. So you would have to walk down this road all the way over here, and then this is the start of Middle Mountain Road, and then have to walk up all of this road. There's no access on any of here to cut across from over there. There's a river that runs there, so you have to walk all the way up this road to get up to where we had the searches in June.
And is it fair to say that that river's at the base of the mountain?
Yes.
And then the mountain itself is up. That's the terrain that you're saying there's no way through.
Yes, this section right here, where it gets really dark green, is very steep and elevates quickly.
Up on the road where the searches were being done in June, any fishing spots up there?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Redwine. At this time, Your Honor, I'm going to ask you to approach the People's Exhibit 150.
All right.
I've handed you what's been marked People's Exhibit 150, Mr. Redwine. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
What is it?
It's Dylan's fishing pole.
You recognize it. What features on it do you recognize?
The pole and then the reel.
Did you search your own home for it?
Yes.
And where Dylan lived with his mother for it?
Yes.
How thoroughly did you search to make sure there was no fishing pole there?
I, as well as I could, I searched until I was 100% certain that it was not there.
Your Honor, at this time, I'm going to move to admit People's Exhibit 150 into evidence.
Mr. Moran?
No objection, thank you.
Admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Redwine, do you know where Dylan kept his fishing pole?
Yes.
Where did he keep it?
In Mark's garage.
Did he keep it in the same place all the time?
Yes.
And were you aware of that back when you were doing interviews with law enforcement, for example?
Yes.
You were able to convey that information long before this fishing pole was ever found?
Yes.
Judge, I'm not going to publish the fishing pole at this
I wasn't going to let you.
Being cognizant of the time, does the court prefer I leave it there or take it off?
I'll just put it on the table.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Mr. Redwine, based on living with Dylan for years and knowing him closely, did you ever know him to walk off for miles in the woods?
No.
You ever see him do anything like that?
No.
You ever see him climb that mountain that we just looked at?
No.
Objection, Your Honor, this is ground we tread yesterday. Asked and answered.
It has been, but I think it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. And then in terms of Middle Mountain Road, had you and he ever gone and walked all the way up there?
No. Not walked.
How would you get up there if you went up there?
With an ATV.
Is there one at the defendant's home?
Yes.
Did you ever know of any instances of him hitchhiking from his father's house?
No.
In November of 2012, in that type of season, is that the kind of place where you even can hitchhike easily?
No.
Why not?
There's just not a lot of traffic up there. And most people that live up there, they just kind of stay up there through the winter, so there's very little traffic up there.
Have there been times when he needed a ride from the house?
There has been times, yes.
What did he do?
He would call someone to come pick him up.
Did you ever know him to walk to his friends' houses on foot from up there?
No,
Are they, in particular, Ryan Nava? Is he anywhere close to where Dylan could walk to?
no.
And did Dylan have other ways of getting around other than walking if he did have to leave the home?
He would call for rides or, but up there, he pretty much, that's the only thing you could do is call for rides, so.
He, in terms of calling for rides, you talked about how cell phone service was a bit spotty, right?
Yes.
But he had his iPod.
Yeah, he had his iPod, or if he made a call up there, it would be off the landline.
Okay. And there was Wi-Fi as well.
Yes.
Knowing Dylan well, was he the type of kid that would wake up and not use a single electronic device all day long?
No.
And based on your interactions with him prior to him leaving, was he excited to see his friends?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. We're just repeating yesterday.
Yeah, I understand, but it was yesterday. I think it's okay as long as it doesn't go too far. Go ahead.
Based on the interaction with you had with him, did it make any sense? His anticipation, your meeting with him in the room before he left, make any sense that he would just stop using his devices and not go to his friend's house?
No.
Objection leading, in addition to asking the answer.
Your objection's noted and overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate it. I have no more questions at this time.
Okay. Cross?
Thank you, Your Honor. May I request that prosecution number 23 be put back up on the scene?
For sure.
Yes, please. And permission to come near the screen?
Yes.
I lost my stick. I'll point.
You're welcome to use ours.
And please talk into the microphone, Mr. Moran.
First of all, good morning. Morning.
You can't stand there, jury can't see what's going on.
Beg your pardon. Thank you. So, just to the south of your father's house is the bridge, right?
Yes.
And you can cross that bridge, and once you cross that bridge, you can, over the river, correct?
Yes.
And that bridge is less than perhaps a football field down the road from that place.
Yes.
And when you cross that bridge, and you head a little bit to the north, there's a trail and signs marking that trail that lead you to a waterfall, and then further up the mountain. Come on, you ever explored that area?
I have not.
Okay. You're aware of that trail, the signs, and the rest of it?
I was not. I have never walked that trail.
Mr. Redwine, do you remember that at some point during the investigation and early on that you were asked to look at photos of your father's living room?
Yes.
And you advised it looked like it usually did, right?
Yes.
You also told law enforcement that it would not be unusual for Dylan to fall asleep on the couch, right?
Yes.
You've also made a statement to law enforcement, and this would have been fairly early on, that Dylan would not fight your dad. He would walk away, right?
Yes.
What you informed them was that Dylan would cool off and walk away, correct?
Yes.
Dylan told you that Mr. Redwine got the pictures that have been discussed and published to the jury on the trip to Boston, right?
Yes.
and I know this was a long time ago. I've got methods of refreshing your recollection if that's necessary, but do you recall that back on November 20th, you're in Durango because you've heard your brother's missing, right?
Yes.
And that was just after your 21st birthday on November 14th, 2012?
Yes.
And that was the last time you and Dylan had communicated, at least by text message, right?
Yes.
On that November 20th date, do you remember meeting with an investigator, Patterson?
Yes.
That day, you did not believe, quote, that your dad, Mark, would ever hurt Dylan, right?
Yes.
In May of 2012, you and your father got into a big fight over something that was happening at his house with you and your friends, right?
It was me and my wife.
Okay. What your dad was concerned about, and you guys had a disagreement, a verbal disagreement, was that while he was out of town working for weeks, you were staying at his house, right?
Yes.
And he was upset.
Objection, may we approach?
Yes. Mr. Redwine, please listen carefully to Mr. Moran's questions and only answer the exact question he's asking, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Redwine, I'm speaking specifically about May 2012. You and your father had a verbal disagreement, correct?
That sounds correct.
You were staying out at his house with your girlfriend, right?
Yes.
And Mark said you and your girlfriend were, quote, messy, right?
I can't recall for certain, but that sounds about right.
And after that disagreement where he was not pleased with the condition that his house was left in as you were staying there, after that disagreement, you two hadn't spoken from May of 2012 until January of 2013, right?
Yes.
And part of what was sort of convenient about your father's house was that his work required him to be out of town, so you could have the place to yourself, right?
Yes.
In the spring of 2012, so before this contention around messiness, that was the spring that you cut yourself hiking while you were at your dad's place, right?
I can't recall for certain the date I cut myself, but I know it was in that time frame.
Would it refresh your recollection as to the general season and year if I showed you a report written about it that was closer in time?
Yes.
May I approach?
You may. Speak up.
I'm referring to page 226 of Discovery. About line 24. Is your memory refreshed with respect to the general season?
Yes.
That just occurred? Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Mr. Redwine, my recollection is that your testimony with Mr. Johnson from the prosecution was that you'd gotten a scrape while you were in the woods, right?
Yes.
Was that a different scrape than this cut to your finger that you were just reading about?
No.
Okay. So those are the same thing?
Yes.
And there was enough of a wound that you were, that you had to bandage it, correct?
Yes.
You recall that there was another occasion where you vomited at your dad's house, right?
Yes.
want to switch gears a little bit here and talk with you about the last conversation you had with your brother. You made fun of Dylan for having to go to your dad's house, right?
I was teasing with him about it, yes.
Is there a difference in your mind between making fun and teasing?
Yeah.
Do you recall speaking with an investigator, Goldbright, in November of 2013?
Yes.
And do you recall that she asked you questions about your last interaction with your little brother?
Yes.
And do you recall stating to her that you were, quote, making fun of Dylan for having to go to Mark's house?
Yes.
You and your mom encouraged Dylan to tell your father that Dylan did not want to be with him before he left for Thanksgiving?
We told Dylan he should voice his feelings to his father.
You gave him advice on how to avoid having to go to his dad's house in the future, right?
No, not how to not go to his house.
The Thanksgiving planned in Colorado Springs was going to involve friends and family, correct?
Yes.
Dylan was aware that there was a gathering planned for your mom's house, right?
Yes.
Fair to say that Dylan liked Colorado Springs because there were stores and restaurants and things he liked to do there.
A little bit. He also liked outdoors too, so.
You remember discussing with law enforcement that when Dylan was young, he was really close to Mark.
Yes.
They had a really tight bond.
Yes.
The first couple of years, your father was at home with Dylan, right?
Yes, he was a stay-at-home dad, and watched Dylan during the day.
And that established a special bond between them, as you observed.
Yes.
It would upset your little brother when your dad spoke badly about your mom and yourself, right?
Yes. I wasn't there, so I can't tell you exactly how Dylan's reaction was, but based just kind of on how he responded to it, he would get upset by it, yeah.
So when Dylan was hearing things that caused him to think, when Dylan was hearing things about how you or your mom, in your father's eyes, were bad influences, that upset Dylan, correct?
Yes.
On that occasion, when Dylan was on a road trip with your father and he called you while you were at the movies, when he finally got on the phone with you, it was difficult to understand and he was upset.
Yes.
And on that occasion, he was discussing how he was upset because of the discussion about being bad influences, your mom and yourself.
Yes.
And you could hear Mr. Redwine in the background, your father, Mr. Redwine.
Yes.
In December of 2012, you met with your father and your half-brother, Brandon Redwine, at the casino, correct?
Yes.
That discussion was in part to talk about ongoing search efforts.
Yes.
You had a recorder.
Yes.
You told your father he was suspect to you, right?
Yes.
And that's the language your mom used as well, correct?
Yes.
You acknowledge that you remember roughhousing with him, right?
With Dylan or with Mark?
With Mark.
One thing if he recalls it, it's another if we're going to talk about a conversation that implicates self-serving hearsay of the defendant.
I think you can just ask, do you remember, and then if you get a different answer, you can get into the conversation, Mr. Moran.
Do you remember talking with your father about roughhousing that happened between yourself and your father?
Yes.
That's
Objection.
not the way I told you to do it, but it's in. I think you can get it in anyway. We'll see what happens next.
You acknowledge throwing the football with your father, right?
No, don't ask it that way. That's what the objection is. Do you remember throwing the football with your father? Then if he doesn't answer it the way you think he should, then you impeach him just the way it's been done earlier today, okay?
Thank you. My efforts at expediting, I will relax. Do you remember throwing the football with your father?
Yes.
A Nerf football?
Vaguely, but yes.
And that would be done inside the house, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember being asked not to interfere with searches going on up in Vallecito?
Yes.
And that was something that law enforcement asked of you, right?
Yes.
And you decided not to listen to that advice, right?
No.
Do you remember saying you didn't listen to the advice to go up there to your dad on that meeting at the casino?
I remember saying they asked us to stay down in Durango, and we, after the full day of searching, went up to the lake after everybody had cleared out.
Do you remember that you said that you snuck off to go do searches?
Not specifically, no.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at a transcript of the recording?
Yes.
Permission to approach.
You may.
I'm referring here to line 32 on page 2507. When it refreshes your recollection. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Sir, does it refresh your recollection?
Yes.
So your father is saying that he was told.
Objection. Hearsay.
This is effect on the listener.
I'm sorry, what?
This is effect on the listener. The truth of the matter is not why I'm seeking to elicit this. It
You
informs.
just refreshed his memory. Why don't you just ask him
Sure.
about that?
I'm getting ahead of myself. You were told don't go up there and interfere, right?
Yes.
And you snuck off and went and did it anyway, right?
Yes, we went up there.
And your father said that he was told he needed
Objection.
to stay at home in
Hearsay.
case he called.
Hold on.
And I want to approach Judge.
I think that is hearsay. I don't see that being the effect of the listener.
It informs why he had to sneak off.
That's not why you're trying
I'd
to
like to
introduce
approach
it.
Your Honor.
That's not why you're trying to introduce it. You can't ask that question.
I'll move on.
Do you want to approach for some different issue?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, come on up. Okay, Mr. Miranda.
Thank you, Your Honor. Are you now aware of a friend who lives by the marina at Vicedo by the name of Tristan Reeves?
I've heard of him, but I've never met him, or I didn't know about him until after Dylan.
I'm going to switch gears here a bit, and I want to talk to you about observations you made in December of 2012. And one of the things that you'd mentioned was that your little brother was not as dependent as he used to be, that he was sort of spreading his wings as a 13-year-old, right?
Yes.
Based on what you know of your little brother, it makes sense to you that he would have slept in the same clothes that you saw him in when he arrived, or that we all saw him in when he arrived.
When the clothes he was wearing on the trip down, yes.
This is uncomfortable to ask, and then I'll move on quickly, but do you recall announcing on the Dr. Phil show that you hate your father?
Yes.
And do you recall also that you told him that you hate him because your stepfather had done more for you and your brother?
Yes.
And you also recalled saying that your stepfather, Mike Hall, had taken you and Dylan hunting?
Yes.
And fishing?
Yes.
And do you recall that you have observed Dylan throwing the Nerf football at your brother, at your father?
I remember vaguely playing with the Nerf football in the house.
Do you recall receiving a text message saying something about how you had gone too far in summer 2012?
Not specifically, no.
Do you recall text messages about partying and liquor bottles at the old house?
Vaguely, but yes.
And this was discussed on direct, but just to reorient you, I'm talking here about August 5th, 2012. You recall exchanging some messages with Dylan while he was on his way to Boston to see the Red Sox?
Yes.
Moment, please. You heard from Dylan, and he said he was in Illinois, right?
Yes.
And while he was in Illinois, that's when you asked him to get you a hat.
Yes.
He was telling you to go to the old house and get the liquor bottles out of the trash can, right?
Yes.
And he had photographs of those liquor bottles, or your dad did, is what Dylan told you.
Yes.
And he looked at those images.
Yes.
Your response to that was, I've got some pics too, right?
Yes.
Reference the photographs that were displayed yesterday.
Yes.
And so that it's clear, what Dylan was suggesting to you is that he would be able to get into your dad's phone and delete those pictures for you.
Yes.
And he followed up saying that they were in the trash, meaning that he put those photographs in the trash on the phone.
I don't recall it that way. He just said that he would go in, and get rid of the pictures. But I had, that was Dylan's decision. I had nothing to do with that.
And there was some testimony yesterday about what was in the garbage cans were beer bottles. Dylan knew the difference between a liquor bottle and a beer bottle, right?
Yes.
What he said was liquor bottle.
Yes.
You told your dad that Dylan was the one who originally found the pictures, right?
Yes.
This whole thing occurred while Dylan and Mark were on a trip, just the two of them, somewhere between Vallecito and Boston, right?
What do you mean, this whole thing? I don't understand the question.
Sure. This event where you sent some pictures to your father was while your father and Dylan were alone on a road trip from Vallecito to Boston.
I never sent any pictures to my father. At least that I recall.
You do not recall sending the pictures straight to your father.
No, I do not.
You recall speaking with an FBI agent by the name of Rustin.
Yes.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at the notes FBI agent Rustin wrote about your interaction with her?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Agent Humphrey's report that you're showing him? Is that correct?
Okay.
Commissioner approaching.
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Would you also like to see the messages themselves?
Yes.
Commissioner approach.
Yes.
Is that sufficient time to review them?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Has your recollection been refreshed?
Yes.
Mr. Redwine, while your father and Dylan were on that trip between Vallecito and Boston alone together, you sent those photographs, didn't you?
Yes.
And just to clarify, to who?
To Mark.
Okay, thank you.
On August 5th, 2012, when you sent those photographs, you also wrote some things, right?
Yes.
Said to your father, "Hey, beautiful." Right?
Yes.
You said, "You are what you eat. Look in the mirror," right?
Yes.
Called your dad out for judging you, correct?
Yes.
That was in part your reaction to Dylan saying you'd been called a bad example, right?
Yes.
And you said, "Oh, and sweetie, this is Cory," right?
Yes.
Told him to, quote, "eat shit."
Yes.
Told him he was a coward, correct?
Yes.
Called him a shit eater, right?
Yes.
You said, pull yourself to eat shit, right?
Yes.
You called him nasty.
Yes.
Said the pics were the nastiest thing you'd ever seen.
Yes.
Called him a shit-eating coward, right?
Yes.
Told him he was a sperm donor.
Yes.
Said you talk more shit than you eat, right?
Yes.
Told him to lick shit off your shoe.
Yes.
When you said that, he was all alone with Dylan on the drive from Vallecito headed towards Boston, correct?
Yes.
The response that you received was that your dad asked you not to hurt Dylan, right?
Yes.
He said, "Dylan doesn't deserve to be hurt anymore," right?
Yes.
He asked, if you care about Dylan, why do you want to see him hurt, right?
Yes.
He said that those pics proved that you'd gone through his personal things, right?
Yes.
And then something about how you were a thief as a result,
Yes.
and that you were like your mom trying to hurt him.
Yes.
Thank you. I know that this wasn't easy. Thank you. I have nothing further.
All right. You have more than just a few minutes of redirect?
A few minutes, Your Honor.
Then?
Is that-
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's finish him up then.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Redwine, I want to start with something that defense counsel asked you. He asked you if you were on the Dr. Phil show and said that you hate your father. You remember that?
Yes.
And you said you hate your father at that time.
Yes.
Was that before or after Dylan went missing?
After.
Why were you upset with your father?
Because he was the last one to see Dylan.
Were you upset? You've talked a lot about the efforts that you put into finding your brother. Were you upset with the way your father responded to the situation?
Yes.
Were you concerned, knowing your father, with the way that he responded to the situation?
Yes.
Was it because of your own personal reasons that you said you hate your father, or because of what you believe had happened in the case?
What happened in the case and it's a mixture of both.
Both.
Yeah.
It's what led up to it, and then it's what you believe happened.
Yes.
Do you love your father?
Yes.
Do you wish you were here under different circumstances seeing your father?
Yes.
To this very day, how do you feel about him?
I still love him. I wish I didn't have to be here.
Who are you here for?
Devin.
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach? This has gone too far.
I'm gonna strike that last.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you here about your father because of the way you feel about him, or are you here about the facts in this case?
Objection, Your Honor. Same objection. Move to strike. Permission to approach.
No,
This is
and, no, and overruled.
The things you said today about Dylan or about your father?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
The things you testified today. Are these things about your father, or are these things about Dylan?
objection, relevant, form of the question.
Leave the objection.
Well, hold on. You have impeached this witness in terms of his beliefs and feelings towards his father to try and impeach his testimony. I think the DA is entitled to go back into it somewhat as to why he's here and to whether or not he testified consistent with his beliefs and feelings or other things. So go ahead.
Your Honor, if I may, then we will object bolstering.
Fine, you're overruled.
So, Mr. Redwine, let me ask you this question again. Are you here today because you hate your father, or are you here today to tell this jury about things involving your brother?
Your Honor, it's a different question every time I feel obligated to object again.
All right, it's on the same line. I want him to answer this question, and that should be the end of it. At least this line of questioning.
Yes, Your Honor.
I am here for the facts in the case.
About your brother.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you about a couple other particular things that defense counsel asked you about. He talked about a trail by a waterfall, goes up Middle Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any knowledge of this trail?
No.
To your knowledge, does Dylan have any knowledge of this trail?
No.
Do you know how easy or difficult or anything about this trail?
No.
Did Dylan have hiking boots or coat or things like that when he was packing for this trip?
No.
Was he someone who would go off and hike?
No.
I want to talk to you a little bit about, you were asked about the photos in the living room and whether it looked like it usually did. Do you remember that question?
Yes.
When was the last time you were in that living room?
And I can't remember specifically, but I know it was in 2012 sometime.
Would it have been, counsel referenced an argument in May? We had some photographs in April. Is that closer to the point in time when you would have last been in that living room?
Yeah, that sounds correct.
Okay. You were asked by, both on direct and on cross-examination, about a cut in the woods, right?
Yes.
Do you recall you spoke to a police officer about that, right?
Yes.
Did you know at the time why they were asking you if you'd ever been cut in that house?
No.
Okay. And you gave them the one example that you could think of?
Yeah, the only time that anything like that has happened in the house for me.
Now, when I showed you those pictures, said if this had been blood, could that be your blood? Does that make any sense in terms of that cut you described?
That the cut I had wouldn't have left anything close to what was on the floor.
Objection, foundation, what he's viewed as luminol, and that's
I understand your objection, and I'm going to sustain it. The jury's to disregard the last answer.
Can you just explain to the jury what kind of cut this was?
It was just a brief scrape I just walked through, and on my hand, just right here, hit just a tree, and there's just a little cut right there, being on my hand, and then a spot where I touched a lot of things. I put a Band-Aid on it just to avoid any infection or stinging or anything like that.
So to give context to what counsel is asking you about, police come to you and they say, "Do you ever bleed? Do you remember anything about ever bleeding?" And that's the one example that you thought of and you gave it to them.
Yes.
It's an injury that's dripping blood all over the house, something like that.
No.
objection asked and answered, leading. Redirect is not just to do direct all over again.
Can you move on, please?
Yes, Your Honor. So, next topic that defense counsel referenced, that I'd like to reference, is about whether you sent the pictures to your father. And did that refresh your recollection about sending pictures to your father?
Yes.
When did you do that?
I did it, the night that Dylan had, asked for the pictures.
So was it actually the next day,
Or the-
based on what you
yes.
reviewed?
Objection. This is the prosecutor testifying. This is improper impeachment. He's leading. This is really problematic questioning. I can make it for the record if we don't, court allows to approach.
No, I'm not going to let you approach on this. You are leading,
Yes, Your Honor.
and I know you're trying to just get through this fast, but the answer is that it was the next day. So go forward. Stop leading. Go ahead.
So you reviewed the documents to refresh your memory?
Yes.
Would you like defense counsel to bring the documents back to you to review again, or do you feel comfortable that it was the next day?
I felt comfortable it was the next day.
Why didn't you send them directly to Dylan?
I, being 13 years old, didn't want Dylan to have possession of those. I just didn't feel he was, mature enough.
How about the idea given to him during an argument with his father? That's something you wanted to do?
No.
The last topic I want to ask you about is defense counsel talked to you about playing Nerf football in the house. You recall that line of questioning?
Yes.
And you have played Nerf football with Dylan in that living room.
Yes.
Anyone ever get injured playing Nerf football in that living room?
No.
Is that a big living room or a small living room?
It's fair size. I mean, with couches and stuff, there's not a ton of room in there, but you can still just throw a ball throughout the house.
Is it fair to say, if you're in the living room itself, that about as far as you're throwing the ball is from?
Yes.
Is that in fact a Nerf football in the sense that it's a soft Nerf football?
Yes.
Based on throwing the football with Dylan before, is that the type of situation you would ever envision someone getting injured?
No.
Your Honor, move to strike. This witness is not an expert in ergonomics.
He's not
Emergency
an
medical
expert in
plan.
ergonomics, but he's a human being who's played with the Nerf football. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Why did you send the pictures to your father?
To show him how I viewed him.
Objection, similar to what we were discussing this morning, asking it that way, eliciting that answer is what 404B is meant to preclude.
Counsel asked about it, Your Honor.
You did, Mr. Moran. I think it's fair game at this point. The jury knows what they can and cannot use this information for. I've told them repeatedly, and I imagine I'll tell them again. Go ahead.
And you had previously testified, but Mr. Moran talked to you about how those pictures, you made comments that they upset you to your father, right?
Yes.
Similar for Dylan?
Yes.
Thank you.
Questions from the jury? Okay, so I don't want you to answer these questions until I tell you, okay? So the first question is when and where did they find the fishing pole? Ladies and gentlemen, I believe another witness is going to talk about that. The next question is what did you think, Mr. Redwine, that Mark Redwine meant by hurt Dylan Redwine in the text exchange? That opens up a lot of issues that we're not going to deal with, and I'm not going to ask that question either. Last question I'm not going to ask is, on November 18th of 2012, was your dad aware that Dylan had seen the pictures of his dad that were presented to the jury? I don't think this defendant has a basis to know that, and this witness, excuse me. However, I do want you to answer these two questions. In your opinion, what were Dylan's options to get to Ryan's house by 6:30 in the morning on the 19th?
Mark, I think he had scheduled to meet with an attorney that following morning. So the plan was he'd go down to the attorney's office in the morning and drop Dylan off on his way into town.
All right. You stated that they, and I'm assuming that means law enforcement, searched the lake because that's where Dylan was last seen. Does that mean the actual lake or just the general area?
The actual lake and the general area. I know we started off with the general area, and then as it went further into it, then we wanted to search the actual lake.
Any follow-up on either of those?
Yes, Your Honor. So, Mr. Redwine, I understand your answer, but I'm not sure if you understood the question as it was asked to you. So let me ask a slightly different question. The judge was asking you if they searched the lake because Dylan was seen at the lake last, or if Dylan was seen in the general area, such as at his father's house last. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so we searched the lake just because he was in the general area at his father's house. So we just wanted to eliminate anywhere in that general area.
So when you answered the question the first time, you were saying they searched both the lake specifically and the general area?
Yes.
Okay. Did anyone see Dylan at the lake, or this was something that was sort of put out there related to the fishing pole, et cetera?
Yes, this is for the fishing pole, and just being in that area with not much else up there, it was a good general spot to start a search.
Are you aware if anybody ever, November 19th and November 18th, right?
Yes.
And November 19th, was Dylan ever heard from?
No.
Okay. Was he ever seen?
No.
Thank you.
Yes.
Your Honor, I think it will help to have counsel put up Exhibit 23 again.
Okay.
Permission to publish
Do that,
that
please.
one more time.
Probably have to turn on the TV, don't you?
And may I approach, I want to
Yes.
not stand in front of the jury and point at the TV.
Well, we'll watch you, Mr. Moran.
Mr. Redwine, just a couple more questions to follow up here.
You need the pointer. You're going to be in somebody's way.
Thank you. So about here is where the general store is, right?
Yes. You're blocking one juror's view just slightly. Thank you. And I know that's hard.
Approximately here is the general store where this intersection is.
Yeah, approximately.
And down about here, there was a reported sighting of Dylan on November 19th, correct?
Yes.
Objection to hearsay, Judge. And also, we're going to address this later in the trial, I'm sure.
He went over this, and it's inaccurate the way it came up with the jury.
It's
Mr. Redwine.
misleading.
One at a time. You guys know that, all right? Finish your objection.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Moran was instructed not to inject hearsay into his questions
by the court, and this is an example of unreliable hearsay. And it's something we're going to address later in the trial. But this, he's asking the wrong witness, and it's very misleading to the jury.
Mr. Moran.
Your Honor, Mr. Johnson asked repeatedly, had Dylan been seen or heard from again? Mr. Cory Redwine knows full well who that information came from, and why that meant that they searched this area approximately 0 north side of the lake.
And it'll come in, if it comes in through a different witness. Do you have any other questions?
Yes.
Please put the microphone back so we don't lose it.
Having been at the house in the spring of 2012, you're aware that the battery on the ATV was dead, right?
I never had any issues with the battery.
When was the previous occasion you had driven the ATV prior to
Is this part of the jury's questions?
options?
Mr. Moran, is this in response to the jury's questions? That's what we're doing now.
I thought it was. If it's not one that Your Honor read, I'll leave it at that.
That's not what I remember.
Okay, that's further.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, people are going to get upset in this trial. I'm going to get upset in this trial. I'll try not to get upset with you. I'll try to get upset with these two sides equally. Please don't let it be seen or think that I hold an opinion one way or the other. And if they get upset, don't hold it against them either. It's just a very emotional case. So with that, we will take a recess till, it looks like it's 10:21 or 10:22. We'll start up at 10:37. And please don't talk about the case while you're in this recess. So everybody rise for the jury, please. Okay, and before we break, the jury's left. Can Mr. Redwine be released from subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. So you can stay.
I'd also like to make a brief record, Your Honor.
All right, you can step down. You're fine.
Very brief.
Go ahead.
So, Judge, we had a bench conference, and my concern was that counsel is putting self-serving hearsay into questions. He just did the same thing and put hearsay into questions. This is a witness that we expect, if they're going to testify, that what they're going to say from back then is not what they're going to say now. It's unreliable. To just take a piece of that and shove it in to a question and raise that type of issue with the jury, it's inappropriate, but counsel is just warned at the bench. And when Your Honor warned counsel's response to you saying that he may get sanctions was, what sanctions? Never heard anything like that. I'm not asking for sanctions. I'm just asking him to follow the court's orders. It's going to be a long trial, and if the questions are going to inject hearsay that's otherwise inadmissible in that way, it's going to be problematic, and I don't want to have any more of these instances where I have to jump up in front of the jury like that.
All right. You've made your record. Do you want to have a brief response or not?
There was a question from Mr. Johnson that was pretty close to, quote, are you aware nobody else had seen Dylan Redwine alive? The information at the time from investigator Cowing was that the mail lady, Angela Lee, had seen Dylan, made eye contact with Dylan, recognized Dylan as Mark Redwine's child, and that was on the afternoon of November 19th. So when the prosecution says, are you aware nobody else had seen Dylan Redwine alive, when everybody who engaged in searching knew that that area that counsel kept inquiring about searches happening at was happening because there was a reported sighting by a credible witness in the area. So the implication the prosecution is trying to create is that the fishing pole was meant to distract from going up on Middle Mountain, and that's why the search was conducted at the lake, which is a misimpression to create. That searching happening at the lake wasn't done by anything Mr. Redwine said. I'm not eliciting what Mr. Johnson refers to as self-serving hearsay and has been talking about for days. This is another witness, but it's direct follow-up from information that was elicited by the prosecution. And to create the misimpression that these searches are happening for some other reason was something that needed to be cleared up by this witness, who knew the reason he was searching the north side of Lake Payasito was because that was the last known sighting of Dylan Redwine on November 19th, 2012.
All right. I've issued my orders. You both know what I expect. I'm not going to do anything at this time. I don't want anything inadmissible coming in. If someone thinks the door's been opened to something, it would be a good idea to approach the bench.
Yeah. We have, I'm sure we do. There you go. I'm like, do I have it? Oh, I hope so. Yeah. Or have, not here. Yeah, you're doing awesome. Oh, yeah. I knew there was a reason why it was on my desk. I just wanted to make sure.